I live in a nice neighborhood with my mom and my dad. My dad works the night shift, and my mom always has worked from home. Now, I love my mom. I really do, but she's kind of a dork. She's a little bored at home, so she always picked up weird hobbies. There was refinishing furniture, building birdhouses, raising exotic animals, ghost hunting, you name it, she's done it. The worst part is, she hasn't been good at any of them. That's why when she started acting unusual at first, I assumed she had just picked up a new hobby. But as the days progressed, things got weirder and weirder. My mom started rushing me to go to bed. I'm 16 years old, and she was snapping at me to get in bed at 9. 9! She was fine with it for a while, but soon, she was getting aggressive about it. I told her I couldn't go to bed that early, and she told me I should take some sleeping medicine to knock out. I started locking myself in my room and pretending I was asleep, just to see if I could hear anything that was going on. I always heard voices, a lot of them, but they always seemed kind of distant and hushed. One night, I couldn't stand it, so I walked downstairs to get a glass of water. I could hear the voices a lot more clearly, and it seemed like they were all coming from the basement. My mom must have heard my footsteps because in an instant, she was at the top of the stairs screaming at me to go to bed. I couldn't believe it. She looked so mad, and she had these weird marks on her face that looked like ancient writing or something. That's when I started to feel a little scared. Her hobbies had always been kind of endearing and harmless and dorky. This felt different. For the next few days, I paced in my room trying to figure out what I was going to do. As I passed the window one day, I saw them. A group of adults, all in a line, wearing black cloaks and paint on their faces. They walked through the backyard towards the back door. I dropped to the ground so they wouldn't see me. People in black cloaks entering your house in the dead of night is never a good thing. When I asked my mom about it, oh man, did it not go well. She told me I must not be getting enough sleep if I'm seeing crazy things like that. Then she wanted to take me to a doctor or something because I was seeing things. I know what I saw, and she knows exactly what I saw too. The next day, I snuck down while they were in the basement. I pressed my ear to the door, trying to hear something. Anything that would help me understand what was going on. I had to prove to myself that my mom wasn't evil. When I pressed my ear to the door, I could hear everything a lot more clearly. I heard my mom's voice, yelling some really scary things. She talked about how she was the one people should be worshiping. She was the chosen one, the one with the power. I fell away from the door horrified. I couldn't listen to anymore. Was my mom leading a cult? I'd never heard her say anything like that before in my life. She sounded so confident, so angry. She sounded like a cult leader. And for the first time, I was really actually scared of my mother, who I used to think was so sweet and innocent. I ran up to bed. I had to tell Dad. I had to get more proof. I had to do something. First, I had to go in the basement. Mom went grocery shopping the next morning, and that was my chance. I ran down into the basement as fast as I could. I had to get this done before she got home, but I wasn't prepared for what I'd find down there. Those dark cloaks everyone had been wearing, creepy candles, even giant creepy banners with a weird-looking symbol on them. In fact, everything had that symbol on them. The candles, the cloaks, the banners. I picked up a book at the front. It almost looked like a rule book, like their Bible. I opened the pages to see if I could get any answers, but the whole inside was blank. Was there a special way to read it? Did they have a secret light or a powder they used or something? Just as I was trying to investigate the book, I heard a door open upstairs. Mom shouldn't have been home for at least another hour or two. She had just left. I pocketed the book. There was no time for me to get upstairs without being seen, so I crawled under the staircase in between all of our storage boxes and waited. The door to the basement opened. Sure enough, my mom started walking down the stairs, mumbling to herself. I tried to hide myself even more. I could feel the spiders crawling all over me. I could feel the cobwebs tickling the back of my neck and my face. I bit my tongue so I wouldn't scream. Finally, Mom came into view. She rolled her eyes and grabbed her wallet off the table. I heaved a sigh of relief as she ran back up over the stairs. I waited until I heard the front door slam before I crawled out. I couldn't believe I was hiding from my own mother. That night, before my dad left for work, I pulled him aside. I tried to tell him everything, the weird people in the house, the whispers, the creepy stuff Mom was saying. I even handed him the book, but he asked if I had made it in art class. He thought I was lying. I tried to defend myself and tell him I wasn't, but he just kissed me and left for work. I was fuming. Have you ever had your parents just ignore you because they think you're being a dumb kid? Or had them treat you like you don't know how the world works or what you're talking about? That almost made me more mad than all the secrecy going on with Mom. Something was going on, and if he wasn't going to listen, I was going to have to prove it for myself. I told my mom that Friday night I was going to go to a friend's house. She seemed excited, but like she was trying to hide it and act all nonchalant. I had my plan in motion. I would go to my friend's for an hour or two and sneak home at 10, right when I knew she'd be having those people over. The time came and I left my friend's house. As I turned the corner towards my own house, I noticed a glow coming from the backyard. I crept around the corner. I could hear the roar of a fire. My heart started to pound. What on earth were they doing back there with a fire? I peeked through the hole in the fence. What I saw on the other side will be burnt into my memory forever. The group with all the people in cloaks were in a circle around the fire, and my mom was standing on a box yelling at them, yelling at one person in particular. She screamed at a small woman opposite her, calling her a traitor, saying she betrayed the whole group and deserved to be punished. The woman was shaking. She seemed so scared. What was my mom doing? I'd never seen her like this my entire life. She was terrifying. My hands started to shake uncontrollably and I could barely breathe. The other group members grabbed the woman. The fire illuminated their faces and made them look absolutely crazy. My mom said they were going to take care of the woman once and for all. Was my mom going to really hurt someone? The woman who raised me? The woman who used to cry at nature documentaries? Had the power really gotten to her head? The woman screamed on the other side of the fence. I had to avert my eyes. I couldn't watch this madness. I had to do the right thing. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. My fingers were shaking as I punched it in. How could I do this to my own mother? What was wrong with me? Was I making the right choice? All these questions screamed in my head, but when the operator picked up, I knew what I had to do. I told them my mom was about to hurt someone and gave them the address. I sat against the fence looking away from everyone as I waited for the police to arrive. When the red and blue police lights flashed over the house, I heard a hush fall over the other side. I ran to meet the police with tears in my eyes. I told them everything. My mom was in a cult and she was about to punish one of the members. The police officers looked shocked. I hid behind them as they busted into the backyard. My mom immediately put her hands up and asked, "What the heck is going on?" The woman that had been screaming had a look of confusion on her face, not of relief. That's when I knew something was wrong. That's when I knew I was wrong. My mom explained that they were just rehearsing for a community play. A play? I felt my stomach churn. I was so confused. My mom explained to the police that the play was premiering next Saturday and even handed them a poster. With that, the police left, warning me not to call in with a false alarm again. I felt hot tears sting my face. I asked my mom why she'd been so secretive, why she'd been so mean. She explained that she wasn't going to tell us until opening night because she didn't want us to make fun of her. We'd always been so judgmental of her hobbies. She just didn't want to embarrass herself until she could prove to us that she was actually good at this, that she had actually found something she excelled at. I felt terrible. I had made my own mother feel bad about herself. I had made her feel like she couldn't explore and be herself without us making fun of her. And it made me feel so guilty. I apologized and gave my mom a hug. The next Saturday, Dad and I went to see her perform the play. She was incredible. I mean, Oscar-worthy. I couldn't believe my mom was such a good actress. Since then, Dad and I have both really encouraged Mom's hobbies. I've come to realize when someone loves something, we should just let them love it. Poking fun at people's ambitions isn't funny. It's just kind of mean. I had always viewed my mom as just my mom, when really, she was a person like me, who is just trying to find something to do that she enjoys.
This is a chilling true crime story about how an Alabama preacher tried to kill his wife using snakes. Glenn Summerford was a Pentecostal preacher in a small town known as Scottsboro, Alabama. Glenn lived in a remote home outside of the city center with his wife, Darlene, and their young son, Marty. Glenn led a small, run-down Pentecostal church in the local area. He was well known for his passionate sermons where he focused on his teachings about God and the devil, often speaking in tongues while handling venomous snakes. As reported by his wife, Darlene, Glenn kept these snakes in a shed on their rural property. On October 4th, 1991, a 911 call was placed that sent chills down the operator's spine as ambulances rushed to the family's residence. As paramedics arrived, they found Darlene in extreme agony, suffering from a snake bite on her hand. She was then rushed to the nearest hospital, which unfortunately did not have any of the antivenom that she would need to stop her pain. She was then immediately rushed to Birmingham, 90 miles away, to receive the antivenom and care she would need to survive. In what would appear as a miracle sent by God himself, Darlene survived this attack. Once fully conscious and well rested, Darlene knew exactly what had happened to her and who was to blame for putting her only seconds away from her own demise. Darlene reported that it was her husband Glenn who had purposefully had her attacked by the snake. Darlene claimed that Glenn believed his speaking in tongues and handling venomous snakes was proof of his being possessed by a divine power. After further investigation, it was discovered that Glenn had accused Darlene of cheating on him. As punishment for her alleged adultery, he forced her at gunpoint to stick her hand into the box of snakes. This occurred on the Friday night leading up to the 911 call. The following Saturday, she spent the day running errands. When she arrived home, Glenn denied her medical treatment. He then proceeded to hold her at gunpoint and force her to endure another snakebite on that Saturday evening. It is believed that after watching his mother suffer from not one but two snake bites, Marty, the son of Darlene and Glenn, had placed the 911 call. After a 2.5-day trial, Glenn was found guilty of attempted murder and faced a mandatory 99-year sentence since he already had 2 prior felony convictions on his record. During the 2-day trial, police also interviewed Glenn's first wife, Doris. Doris testified how she had once seen Glenn almost kill a man during a fight over some cash. When asked if she thought that her abusive ex was capable of murdering someone, she first paused and grimly replied, "Possibly." Although including venomous snakes as part of a church sermon may seem bizarre and utterly irrational, this event led anthropologists, filmmakers, and more into unearthing a deep, dark, twisted side of the Appalachian rural culture. If you enjoyed listening to this true crime story, make sure to follow and like this video. If you would like to read more about this event, check out thedailybeast.com article published December 7th, 2020.
Am I the asshole for refusing to let my family meet my daughter after all of them dropped out of my wedding upon finding out my wife was pregnant? I come from a conservative Christian family. All my family members were/are involved in the church and have church-based jobs. When they met my wife, they loved her and embraced her as their own. We dated for 2 years and discovered she was pregnant after we got engaged. Invitations were already given at the time, and we decided to still have the wedding on the date when my wife was 5 months in. My family was furious when they found out my wife was pregnant. They asked if we were even still considering having a wedding. I said why not, but they were very upset, especially my mom and dad, who said that they've always been known for their decency and good Christian values, and they weren't willing to let this stain their reputation, as in my wife and I getting married while pregnant. They officially dropped out and refused to negotiate, saying it was done and I have only myself to blame for this outcome and should have moved the wedding to out of town. I was hurt and I tried to change their minds and checked with other members, but my brother said he had no intentions to look like a joke in front of his fellow church members and dropped out too. My aunt pretended to be sick and said she may not be able to make it. She's 100% healthy. My cousin said he had a business trip and stopped his wife and kids from attending, and my uncle cussed me out, tore up the invitation, and kicked me out. I felt terrible with no family members of my own to support me and share my joy at my wedding. I even broke down crying after the ceremony. I haven't spoken to them for months and then got busy with my 4-week-old daughter. My cousin reached out to hand me gifts and well wishes for the birth of my daughter sent from my family. I returned everything. He sat with me on behalf of my family and said I shouldn't have returned the gifts and that they were from my family who want to see and hopefully be involved in my daughter's life. He said my mom's longing to meet her grandbaby and everyone else is wanting to visit soon to celebrate my daughter's life. I said, wasn't my daughter the reason why the entire lot of them abandoned my wedding? My daughter at some point will ask about the wedding and I have no intentions on lying to her. He just started stuttering as I went on about how they treated my daughter as someone to be ashamed of and hide. He He replied saying he guaranteed I got it all wrong, and no matter what goes down between us, I can never deny that my daughter is their granddaughter / niece, etc., and that they're family. He asked that I arrange for them to visit, but I refused. My wife says I should let them come, but I still...
If you're a girl and you don't like when guys come up to you and ask you for your number or your Snapchat repeatedly and don't leave you alone, I have the perfect solution for you. So today I went to the mall, and I was waiting in line at Chick-fil-A, and there was a bunch of guys staring at me. I was just waiting for one of them to come up to me because I knew it was gonna happen. So eventually I'm by myself and one of them comes up to me. They ask me how old I am and if I can give them my Instagram. Now usually I would be like, no, sorry, I have a boyfriend. But that doesn't actually stop them from continuing to ask you because most guys don't care. So I tried a new method today. I said, I'm sorry, I'm gay. And he looked really surprised. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm a lesbian, sorry. And this happened in front of all of his friends. He may have been caught off guard, but you know, he left me alone. Sometimes this might not work though, because a guy came up to me while I was walking out of the bathroom and he was like, yo, you got a boyfriend? And again, because it worked so well the first time, I was like, no, I'm gay. And he was like, me too, what's your snap? It was just really funny, I can't.